From the earliest times, humanity has relentlessly sought answers to fundamental questions about its existence, about who we truly are, and how to achieve a fulfilling, authentic life. Carl Jung, one of the greatest explorers of the unconscious, left us with a profound truth that still resonates with incredible. Within each person exists a forgotten aspect, a part of their being stuck in childhood that influences all our decisions, emotions, and relationships. Many people live their days completely unaware that their inner child is still there, patiently waiting to be recognized, heard, and healed. Jung taught us that our psyche consists of many facets, and one of the most powerful and influential is the childlike part that we carry within ourselves. When this inner child was wounded, when it experienced rejection or deep emotional pain, this wound turns into a shadow that subtly but significantly affects our entire adult life. Without realizing this process, we repeatedly replay destructive behavioral patterns, react disproportionately strongly in certain situations, and feel an inexplicable sense of unease. It seems nothing in the material world can fill the void. Do you remember what you were like when you weren't afraid to freely express your emotions? When you unconditionally trusted the world and sincerely believed in the magic of life? At what specific moment did you stop being like that? When did you first feel the need to hide, defend yourself, or be someone else to earn the acceptance of those around you? Jung convincingly shows us that these deep experiences never disappear. They are safely stored in the unconscious, constantly influencing our every choice and decision. This inner child does not remain static in the past. It actively manifests in every relationship you have today. Perhaps you have already noticed that, despite all conscious efforts to change, you continue to attract partners who make you feel insecure, do not value your qualities, or leave you with the agonizing feeling that you are never good enough. In a professional setting, these patterns can be particularly pronounced. You may feel a constant need to exert excessive effort to gain recognition, or even constructive criticism may wound you far more deeply than it should. All these emotional reactions stem from a deeper core, from the unaddressed wounds of your inner child. Jung made a revolutionary discovery. The only way to truly heal is to turn toward this forgotten part of yourself with compassion and tenderness. Instead of continuing to ignore your inner child or suppress its pain, we need to create a safe space where it can freely speak, express itself, and gradually heal. When we dare to take this step, a truly amazing transformation occurs. We begin to see the world in a completely different light, our relationships qualitatively change, and life ceases to be perceived as a constant, exhausting struggle. So how can we practically approach healing the inner child? The key lies in deep introspection and sincere reconciliation with one's own history. The first and most important step is to fully acknowledge its presence in your psyche. Whenever you experience irrational fear, deep insecurity, or inexplicable sadness, instead of habitually ignoring these feelings, ask yourself important questions. What part of me is feeling this way right now? Where does this feeling truly come from? Often the answer will lead you to early childhood memories, to significant moments when you first felt not good enough or realized you needed to be someone else to earn love. Jung especially emphasized the power of symbols and the unique language of the unconscious. Our inner child often manifests itself through vivid dreams, bodily sensations, or recurring life situations. Pay close attention to whether you notice certain patterns that persistently repeat in your life, as if life is trying to convey an important message that you are not yet ready or willing to hear. It is important to understand that healing the inner child is not a quick process, but a deep, daily commitment to oneself. This means giving yourself permission to feel everything that once had to be suppressed, learning to treat yourself with unconditional love and tenderness, and talking to yourself with the same gentleness and understanding with which you would communicate with a frightened little child. It also means allowing yourself to rediscover the joy of play, to laugh without fear of judgment, and to reconnect with the purest, most authentic part of your being. The healing process means allowing the inner child to feel what it could not express in its time. Often the simple act of writing a letter to this child, talking to it aloud, visualizing it, and uttering the words it always needed to hear can become a turning point. This is a symbolic act, but Jung taught us that the unconscious works through symbols. And when we bring closure to these moments from the past, we release the energy that was trapped within them. By healing the inner child, we also transform our feminine energy, because the true essence of the feminine is not fragility or submission, but intuition and the ability to create from the heart. When our inner child is wounded, this energy is blocked. We become rigid and distrustful of our intuition. But when we heal, when we learn to nurture ourselves instead of waiting for someone else to do it, we restore this connection with our true essence. This does not mean that we will never feel fear or insecurity again. The healing process is a continuous journey of self-discovery and transformation. But the difference is that instead of letting our wounds control our lives, we learn to manage them consciously. Instead of reacting from pain, we act from wisdom. Instead of seeking external validation, we give it to ourselves. These changes affect not only our relationship with ourselves, but also everything around us. When we heal the child, we change the way we interact with others, ending relationships that are draining. We become more selective, not out of fear, but out of self-love. Because when we know our worth, when we learn to give ourselves what we need, we stop desperately looking for someone who will do it for us. Jung said that the goal of life is individuation, that is, becoming oneself. True growth is possible only when we dare to face the shadow and heal the wounds of our past. It is not always easy, and there will be times when it seems easier to continue to ignore the past. But remember, every emotion that arises is an opportunity for healing. Instead of running away from it, feel it, observe it, give it space, and gradually you will see how your inner child begins to trust you again. The external world is a reflection of our internal world. If we want to transform our life, if we want to live with greater love, peace, and authenticity, we first need to do this work within ourselves. The good news is that it's never too late to start. Your inner child is still there, waiting. And when you finally give it the love it has always needed, you will realize that everything you were looking for outside was always inside you. Jung spoke about how the psyche creates defense mechanisms to avoid pain, and one of the most common is distraction. Often, when we are ready to face our emotions, we find ways to evade them, plunging into work, conflictual relationships, or addictions. But the truth is that pain does not disappear from being ignored. It remains in the body, in the mind, in the soul, waiting for us to acknowledge it. One of the most obvious signs of a wounded inner child is the feeling of emptiness, the feeling that something is missing, that no matter what you do, there always seems to be a hole inside. Many try to fill this void with relationships, achievements, or external validation. But the emptiness is not something to be filled from the outside. It is a call from the unconscious, a sign that there are parts of you that have been forgotten and need reintegration. When you begin to heal, you begin to notice how your emotions change. Perhaps in the beginning, you will feel sadness, nostalgia, even anger. These emotions are not negative. They are showing you what was suppressed. Instead of rejecting them, allow yourself to feel them. Express them in some way. Each time you do this, you release energy that was trapped in the past. Another key aspect of this process is learning to distinguish between the voice of your inner child and the voice of your ego. Jung spoke of the ego as the part of the psyche that tries to protect us, but often keeps us in limiting patterns. The ego is cynical, full of fear. It tells us that we are not good enough, that we cannot trust others, that we need to continue defending ourselves. But the voice of the inner child is different. It is purer, more emotional, and more sincere. It is the voice that says it wants love, wants to be seen, wants to be heard. Few experience the freedom that comes with healing the inner child. When you heal your inner child, when you give it the love it has always needed, you unlock something amazing. You have always been enough, have always been worthy of love, and inside you have always had everything necessary for a full and authentic life. When you begin to experience this internal transformation, you notice that your relationships with the world change subtly but powerfully. What previously provoked anger or pain no longer has the same power over you. Not because external situations have changed, but because your internal state has evolved. The external world is merely a reflection of our internal world. If before you felt a constant need to defend yourself, thought that no one understood you or that you were invisible, this probably stemmed from the unresolved wounds of your inner child. But when you heal, you stop placing so much importance on external validation. This is a continuous journey, and there will be days when you feel great progress and others when it seems you have returned to the beginning. But every step matters. Each time you choose to treat yourself with compassion instead of criticism, each time you choose to listen to yourself instead of ignoring yourself, you build a healthier relationship with yourself. From childhood, many women learn that their worth depends on how others perceive them. whether they are good enough, loved enough, or whether they meet certain expectations. But all of this is an illusion. True self-esteem comes not from external approval, but from the... When you achieve this, something amazing happens. You become magnetic, not because you are seeking the attention of others, but because the energy you radiate changes. Jung spoke of integrating the shadow. The shadow is not something negative. It is simply those parts of you that you have not wanted to see. Perhaps in the past you were taught to suppress your voice, minimize your feelings, and believe that expressing your needs was selfish. But integrating the shadow means reclaiming these lost parts. It means giving yourself permission to be yourself without fear of judgment. This is especially important for those with wounded inner children who feel they must please others to be loved. You may have noticed that you say yes when you want to say no, yielding to the desires of others only to avoid conflicts. But when you start healing, you understand that setting boundaries is not an act of selfishness, but an act of self-love. Healing does not mean that you will never feel pain or fear again. It means that when those feelings arise, you will know how to cope with them without letting them control your life. It means that when faced with a challenge, instead of reacting from the wound, you will act from awareness, and this is true freedom. This transformative process affects not only your emotional world, but also your physical one. When your mind and soul are in harmony, your body responds positively. Often chronic illnesses, anxiety, or extreme fatigue are connected to unresolved emotional wounds. Jung said that what we do not face on a conscious level manifests as fate, and this applies both to our emotional life and to our health. As you progress in this process, you begin to notice that what previously seemed impossible now feels natural. Where there was fear, there is now confidence. Where there were doubts, there is now certainty. Not because life has become easier, but because your way of interacting with it has changed. When the inner child heals, the adult woman is reborn. And this rebirth is not just an internal change, but a complete transformation of how you see yourself in the world. Now, instead of feeling the need to be saved, you realize that only you can save yourself. Instead of seeking love outside, you discover that the most important love is the love you give yourself. Healing not only transforms your life, but also affects everyone around you. When a woman heals, her energy, her presence, and her way of loving change. This transformation does not go unnoticed. It becomes an inspiration for others, a beacon of light showing that it is possible to live from authenticity, fullness, and joy. This is a journey, and taking the first step is the hardest. But once you take it, you will never be the same, because once you have healed, once you have seen your true worth, it is impossible to go back. Now is your moment. Now is your chance to reclaim everything that has always belonged to you. Carl Jung said that when you accept everything, then you stop fighting what is. Real inner peace arises not from suppression, but from acceptance. Reconciliation is not an act of weakness, but an act of strength. And remember, reconciliation is only possible when it comes from love, not from fear. Healing your inner child is just the beginning of a deeper journey in which you stop being a prisoner of circumstances and start creating your own reality. This path does not have to be traveled alone. There are many people in the world who, like you, are in the process of transformation. Together, we can help this message reach more people, helping more women awaken to their true power. Remember, within you, you already have everything you need for healing, for transformation, and for living from your true being. Change starts now. Change starts with you.